Hey everybody, it's a nice day outside today and we're going to come out and draw a little bit. I'm looking all around here with my made up GoPro camera, hat mounted camera. When you're outside in the world or inside in the world, you don't have any real limits. You can look all around, up and down, and there's no border on your vision that you can see. If you hold your hands up, eventually you won't be able to see them if they move out wide. But when you make a drawing or a painting, there's a frame. What we want to work on today is using a consistent frame when we're drawing and looking, so that we can get drawings in proportion that fit with what we see. So for example, right now I'm looking out across this lawn and I see a house and I see this tree. And if I decide I want to make a drawing of just the tree trunk and the branches, then I'm going to frame it on this horizontal rectangle and then draw a rectangle on my paper that corresponds to that same proportion. Now when you go back and look, as you will when you're drawing, you're constantly looking at the thing and then looking at your paper and then looking back at the thing. You want to be able to anchor this frame and put it back to the same place every time, so you want to sort of memorize where your frame is. Now in this case, I'm going to put my frame so that the bottom of the drawing is right at the base of the tree. And I'm going to put the top of the drawing right where that middle branch splits into two. And I've got my right hand side, I've got that light colored bush there beside the window of the house. And on the left I've got another sort of light colored bush. So I go and draw some, which is not easy to do in this situation. I put in the basic tree drawing. Now I want to go back and check some things. And I need to go back to that same spot. So I find where my frame was. At the bottom of the tree, the top of the frame is right where the middle part splits in two. And then that light bush over there is my right side. So when I go back to the drawing, I can start getting more precise with things, putting in the horizon line, putting in some of the shrubs, some details of the house, the windows of the house. There's a little recycling bin or something over there. So when you make this sketch, you get the whole optical image of what you were drawing. If you want to make a sketch in a vertical format, then you want to make your frame a vertical rectangle, up and down. So if you were doing it that way, would want to make your rectangle on your paper a vertical rectangle. Do this bush here, or we want to do the corner of the bush and the corner of that tree dropping down. So again, we want to make sure we don't zoom in or out when we go back and look. We want to lock this in so that we're getting about the top half of the rectangle. In the middle of it is where the rounded part of the bush starts, and then right in the middle we have the pine tree branch dropping down. So we'll have a rectangle like this. And then we're going to put that rounded part of the bush here and the pine tree dropping down there. And this is sort of the beginning of the proportional relationships and the framing of that particular area that we're drawing. Alright, I know this is probably making you dizzy here. I still want to try to get this one. Let's try this. Let's say we want to get that one shrub there. You can put that right in the middle, and we've got it about halfway. The top of the shrub is halfway up the middle of the rectangle, and to the right we have this very light bush, and also going up the middle we have that dark area of shrubbery, and to the right of that is the road. So once again, it's always a good thing to kind of grid your sketch. I'll go back to where I was. The shrub, the little rounded shrub, is right in the middle. So I'll put that here. And to the other side of it is one that's even lighter. Going directly up from the middle of the shrub is a dark area of bushes. Here we have some driveway. And then up a little higher we have the road that we can see. So this may look like a very abstract drawing right now, but it gives me a sense of where everything is, and it shows me the compositional properties and some of the values of what I'm looking at. When you look at a natural setting like this, it can be difficult to know how to draw because there are millions of leaves and branches and lights and shadows, and so you want to look for shapes and then figure out how to compose them within a rectangular format. When we are very young, we learn to see conceptually, that is by singling out things, people and objects, so we can make sense of the world. And we draw that way sometimes by drawing single things out in the middle of nothing. When we draw and sketch using framing, we want to draw in a more optical way using optical seeing, which is more like a camera that includes everything within the frame, the context. So in this case, the blade of grass that we saw earlier is in with all these other blades of grass in the context. The great French Impressionist painter said, "I wish I'd been born blind and then suddenly gained sight so that I could have begun to paint in this way without knowing what the objects were that I saw before me." So he's talking about being able to see in a purely optical way without having our mental constructs and concepts change the way things appear to us. So when you do sketching, the simplest kind of sketches, small ones, are called thumbnail sketches. They're usually bigger than your thumbnail, but they could be that small. And this is a great way to generate different variations by making a frame and looking at things from different points of view and just doing quick sketches like the different variations of the sailboat there, or views of the interior of this room. Another type of sketching incorporates value, and the apple drawing there are only two values, dark and light. The ones on the right here were some student work where they were assigned to do three values: darkest, lightest, and medium. So reducing everything to the biggest shapes, generalized shapes. Value sketches can be done in oil paint or digitally, and is a great way to work on variations and compositions. When I start a painting like either one of these, I always start with sketching, trying variations, and then drawing the bigger general shapes. Where this painting on the left of the creek, you may see lots of colors and details and brush marks. It started out as a very generalized sketch of shapes and values. The one on the right seems like a very simple composition, but I wanted to be very careful about the proportional relationships and about the angles and lines as the rising and falling hills of sand under the water come forward and tilt and get larger, and the arrangement of colors in sort of horizontal bands. This painting that is in the Science Center, you can see there are large areas of dark values, light values, medium values, and that's the way the painting was started, with sketches and value studies. These are some of my more realistic paintings, the one on the left of a Minoan vase and the one on the right of a pear. They both started with sketches to get the proportional relationships, to fit it into the frame, even though there's not much going on in the background. It's important to me to figure out how much space I want around the objects, and then finally working on values and then getting into more details.